Hey everybody, this is Jeff Peterson, and this is the Interstate of Music podcast. And with me today is singer-songwriter Drake Milligan. So welcome to the podcast, Drake.
I'm happy to be here. There you go.
Is that just, I don't know that that's actually true.
I showed up today and you had Lone Star beer.
See, that's a big plus.
And I was in.
And maybe halfway through this, we could probably talk to somebody that's behind that camera over there to get us a couple more. So a couple things that I want to start off by. Number one, I got connected to you because somebody that you just co-wrote a song with that's on your new 5-song EP that just launched, self-titled Drake Milligan, which is, you got bangers on that thing.
Oh,
that is fantastic. So Bryce Long, I saw a post on Facebook that, he was all proud of this song and, you were out there playing it. I listened to it. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get to know this guy. I gotta follow this guy. So that's why you're here.
Absolutely.
Thank you for actually responding.
Hey, thank you.
And
thank you, Bryce.
Yeah. Thank you, Bryce. BL. Thank you. All right. So back when you were, when I say way back in the day, you haven't had a million days. We have a big age range between the two of us. So when I say back, when you were, high school, were you doing the band thing? Were you doing just kind of singing? Everybody at this point that knows you did American Idol. They know you did like talent contests, but were you thinking at that time the music thing was what you wanted to do, or is it just something you did?
I've always been gravitated towards it. I've always wanted to do something in music. Actually, my gig in high school was traveling as Elvis. I was a pretty much full on, as we like to say, Elvis tribute artist,
Yeah. Versus the impersonator.
Yeah,
well,
the tribute artists,
impersonators are in Vegas.
Well, the impersonators, they like, hey, I recorded this song back in 1955. As if they're Elvis. Right. But tribute artist thing is kind of more just we like the songs and want to do them. But it just became my kind of gig. I travel on all these festivals and meet new people and meet friends that I had known, and they're great songs. So yeah, that was kind of my gig in high school. But all the while, if I was sitting at home playing guitar, I was playing like a Merle Haggard song or a George Jones song. The stuff that I grew up with, my dad listened to all that old country stuff. So that's where my first like love in music was.
Because you're from Texas, originally, and live in
Texas,
and live in Nashville now.
I do.
So when you were picking up the guitar, was that self-taught? Was that going to lessons every week? How did you learn to play the guitar? And
I took lessons early on. I knew I was about probably 7 or 8, and I knew I just wanted to play guitar. I had got a guitar for Christmas. Nobody in my family really played. I had an uncle that played piano really well, and I always gravitated towards that. Wanted to watch him. He did dueling pianos, and I always wanted to be around him and watch those. And I always gravitated towards it. And I started taking lessons, and most of the stuff I was learning then was like Back in Black and like rock stuff. And
sounds good to me. So how do you go from Back in Black to Elvis though?
Yeah, it was really just the teacher I had was teaching me that stuff. So, but I always loved like the classic rock station 92.5 in Fort Worth was always like the staple growing up. We were out fishing, we'd have 92.5 on. So I knew all those songs. As more my guitar teacher wanted to teach me that stuff because he loved it. But I discovered Elvis through just by accident, really. I saw an Elvis impersonator at a like burger box one day, or a restaurant called the Burger Box, just like a little burger joint. And I was just like enthralled. I was just a kid, and I was looking at the jumpsuit and the songs, and I was like, what is this? Yeah. So, I went home and started looking up everything I could about Elvis, getting Elvis books, watching his videos, watching his movies, and just became a huge fan, and it kind of snowballed from, I was just like dressing up as him for Halloween to now I'm starting to try to sing and it really what got me into singing was trying to sing like Elvis a little bit, and then snowballed from there. And then once my voice changed, I was like, oh man, I can actually kind of sound like Elvis. I was about 13, and I was like, man, I can start kind of singing like him, and it snowballed from there, and really got me into performing and being on stage, because what a better performer to try to emulate.
Right, no doubt. Yeah. Did you through high school? Were you like really focused on doing something in music, or like was college? What were you thinking about what you wanted to do? What did you like school? Going to class?
I wasn't. I didn't really have a plan. I had no plan. I was applied to Texas Tech University, and I was going to go. My brother went there. all my friends were going there, and I was just applied there. I was just going to get a business degree or something.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was going to do. Right. Hopefully I was like, man, Lubbock's got a cool music scene. Maybe I can just be out there and maybe start a band, do something, But I was lucky enough my senior year in high school, about February through my senior year of high school, I found out about the open call auditions for Sun Records on CMT and drove up to Memphis from Fort Worth. Kind of had to fight to get in there because I was 17 at the time. Right. And they didn't want anybody under 18, but kind of fought my way in there, just sent them a bunch of stuff. And they said, okay, you can come audition, and had a contract that night. And 2 weeks later, got the call that I had the part. And, my audition was Valentine's Day of 2016. And by March, end of March, I was in Memphis for pre-production. So, wow. And so I obviously left high school, withdrew my application to Texas Tech, all that stuff. So, and it was a whirlwind, but looking back, I'm glad I did it because I treated that experience on Sun Records as a college experience. Right. I was like talking to all the sound guys. What is this? What are you doing here? Like, tell me more about this. And our musical director was guy Chuck Mead on the show, and Chuck had a band back in the day, BR 549. Okay. It was a cool band out of Nashville in like the late 90s and early 2000s. And, just getting to live next door to him for 4 months. And he's a country music encyclopedia, and just always ask him questions about this guy and all these guys that played on my favorite records. And so I treated the whole experience as a college education. And I'm glad I did, because
that's the smart way to, it's no money. Different than an internship.
Yeah. I didn't have to pay for it.
Right.
I got to make money while I was doing it. So.
So how comfortable were you? Because when kids go off to college, you hear all about the homesick thing and coming back and all that. How did that feel like going off and making that step? And were you that into what you were doing that it kind of kept your mind occupied?
Yeah, we were so busy, and the crew and everything on Sun Records was so wonderful. And even the cast, all the guys, Billy Gardell was amazing, who played the Colonel. He's on Mike and Molly. You may see him there. Yeah. And it was just all these guys, as soon as I came to town, were like, wanted to have dinner with me and get to know me. And they were just there to help me, because they knew I'm like kid from nothing in Texas. And I've never been on this huge TV set, but everybody was so nice. And I kind of gravitated towards it. I really embraced it. Had a great director, Roland Joffe. He's just this crazy, just has a way of calming you down and getting the best out of you. And so it was just a great team all around.
And at that time, were you, as you were kind of traveling through this and going on that journey, were you trying to write music for yourself? Is that what you were doing, like when you were alone, picking up a guitar? Like, when did that part of you kind of kick in? Because that is not an easy thing. Yeah. Everybody thinks they can write a song, right? And then, a lot of times you probably think your songs are good, but then you have the guts to have somebody else listen to it and tell you it sucks. So at what point were you like starting to write music and think it was all right?
It probably wasn't until I moved to Nashville. I was always picking around on little ditties and trying to make up stuff, but always was like, man, this is terrible. Well, this is terrible.
Have you ever gone back and actually rethought of them and said, maybe it wasn't so bad?
Yeah, right.
I might turn this into something okay.
Well, it's cool because you find, there's some stuff from the start that you have, and once you kind of find out who you are as a songwriter, a little bit, and I'm still in the process of doing that, but you can kind of look back and go, oh, all right, I had that even the first stuff I was writing. But it wasn't until I really moved to Nashville, because I moved to Nashville thinking I knew I wanted to sing, and I already knew Tony Brown there. Okay, he had seen me on Sun Records and loved my part in Sun Records. Tony played keys for Elvis back in the day, and then produced all these George Strait records, and he's a legend in music.
You have had cool experiences pretty quick.
Yep.
Is that something that you got an energy from, or was that just lucky? How it just kind of fell into place, or did you really network like crazy at that young age?
No, I think I'm pretty lucky. I've always just kind of gone with it and met people and I think luck has a lot to do with it, I think.
And people putting you in good positions because they think you're a good kid. A good
person, and too, a lot of it is just working really hard. I've always just had that. Once I decided this is what I want to do, it's focused and it's, preparation. When preparation, luck is, what is the saying? When preparation meets hard work or something, it's whatever that saying is. It's true. I think so. So I've really tried to work on it. Once I did move to Nashville and start writing songs, was lucky enough to get with guys like Bryce. And I think to them, letting them know, I always make sure I show up on time. I always bring ideas. And I know what I wanted. I knew I wanted to be, this kind of traditional artist. I knew what my influences were, and I wanted to mesh those influences together. And when you kind of know your lane, you know what you like, you know what you don't like, and then I can open it to these guys and just learn from them.
Right.
Sit down with the guys like Bryce and really watch how to craft a song. That was where I fell in love with songwriting, because I was lucky to get that master class early on of watching these guys and say, oh, this is something I can do. This is something I can be a part of. And more than anything, they just, when they recognize that I'm willing to work really hard and I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to bring ideas in, and, I'm going to appreciate their ideas. And I want to write with Bryce Long because he writes great songs, and he's a fantastic writer. Yeah. And I want to be a part of that.
Yep.
I don't want to go in there and try to change what he does.
No.
So and I think once they see that, I think they appreciate it, and it just snowballs from there. Word gets around. They say, "Hey, have you written with this guy? Yeah, he's great. You should write with him." And that's kind of how it just happens, And
how hard is it to actually get in sync to collaborate on writing a song? I mean, when you first kind of walked in, I mean, there's got to be some writers that you've tried to write a song with that just didn't click. Like,
it's a lot of first dates.
Yeah.
It's a lot, especially, I signed a publishing deal at Sony, and then, all of a sudden this door opens up to where you're writing with a ton of people in your writing schedule. And that's what I did for 3 years, straight.
So somebody's actually just saying, you're going to write with this person, you're going to write with that.
They may go, hey, this might be cool, this might work, this might not. And everybody understands that.
Yep.
They understand that, they put you in this room and this may be cool. And sometimes you love hanging out with somebody, and they're the best person, you want to hang out with them, but you guys can't write a song to save your life. It's like, sometimes it clicks, sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it's guys that you would never imagine you could write a great song with. Maybe their stuff isn't quite what you think your stuff is, but you get in a room together and all of a sudden something happens, some spark happens, and that happens quite a bit.
When I noticed on this 5-song EP that you just launched, it seems like you've got every song's with a different writer. Was that intentional, or was that just the way it played out?
Yeah, well, it's the way it played out. Brandon, probably more than anybody.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Oh, it's cool. Well, and what's cool for me is there is a lot of guys like Bryce Long, like Brett Beavers, who did like the Dierks Bentley stuff, and great writers. Terry McBride on there, and Brandon Hood, who co-produced this record with Tony Brown. He was a big part in kind of finding my sound. He's so musical, and we were working on all these demos and trying out bands and trying to find this sound, right? That eventually became the EP. And he was a big part of it. And I don't think we did, because a lot of times in Nashville, what happens is you have an artist, you have a producer, and you have maybe a couple writers and that's like that every song is going to be written by them. I definitely wanted to have a little bit of something. I wanted every song to sound different.
Yep.
Right. I wanted every song, and it took 3 years to get to this point, and it's find those songs.
That's that passion. That's the drive. Yeah. That's the persistence. That's the hard work part of it. And trusting yourself that this is going to get to those 5 songs. Because me personally, I mean, and I'm not just saying this. I said it as soon as I heard it. I started sending it to everybody here at Interstate Music. Yeah. And I'm like, listen to this, listen to every song, listen to the next song. And I legitimately am listening to these songs. I'm like, every single one of these songs should be on the radio right now. This should be like the summer tune. This should be this, that. And that's not common for me when I go through and I listen, because even when I was growing up back in the 80s, it was the one hit wonder decade, right? Bands you've never heard of, but that one song, I never bought albums. I always bought 45s because I always picked the songs that I liked. I legitimately listened to yours, and I said it to myself in my head. I'm like, I would buy this fucking album. And that was something that's why this is so important. Like to have you here, honestly, I don't want to sit there and act like a big fan or anything, but I'm unbelievably impressed with the way that you've developed your sound with collaborating with so many different songwriters. And you're right, every song is different. You could actually take every song, peel off, and do an entire album with that songwriter, and it would be fantastic. A lot of fun. So what's next? How many more originals do you have just like sitting back on the shelf that you're kind of waiting to figure out what to do with?
Well, I've got a ton. I mean, we recorded, we have a lot in the slot, right? We recorded pretty much a whole record. So we're looking at, doing that, and I've got stuff. I'm still writing. Every time I'm in Nashville, I'm still, I just want to stack up songs and get better. And I'm still in that process of feeling like I can get better, right? Which I always want to be in. I always want to be in that thing of wanting to get better, wanting to work at it. So yeah, I've got a ton of songs stacked up. It's just finding the right time to get them out there.
So taking a look back, and I've watched American Idol. I watched The Voice. I watch it because I like seeing all the different talent that's out there. The war, the contest part of it.
Yeah,
I could care less about that part of it. But it's great to just see different musicians and see how they, progress through that kind of, kind of intense, like spotlight kind of, side of it. How did that feel for you going? Was that something that felt like it was you, or was it just something, hey, it's an opportunity, I'm going to give it a shot? What was that thought process?
American Idol came along. I was fresh out of Sun Records. The show had just come out, and I got the opportunity to audition, and figured let's go for it. I was living in LA at the time, trying to do acting stuff, right? And I was a little distracted, right? There was a studio I was going over to there, and I was like, oh, this is more fun than and I was kind of, acting was on the back burner. So eventually I was like, all right, I'm gonna do music, and that was an opportunity that immediately came up, and went and did it, and I discovered quickly that I wasn't ready. I got to looking at the process of the show and how it would be, and they throw you up on this big stage, and it's great if you know who you are. But I had done no work on trying to discover who I was, what I wanted to say to people, what my sound could be like. I hadn't done any songwriting to speak of.
Sure.
I hadn't done any work in the studio, trying to, I wasn't, and I definitely wasn't, I don't think, a great singer at the time. And I would have been thrown on that stage, and I think it would have been a little premature to be up on that platform.
Very mature to think at that point it was premature to try to launch your career that way, because from what it sounds like, you're looking at this is you want it to be your career. You don't want to just hit it and all of a sudden you're a big deal, and then all of a sudden you're not a big deal, because that's unbelievably common in music.
Well, just like with these songs, I wanted to build a good foundation. Right. I wanted to lay out, and that was from the beginning. Through the writing process, I knew whatever I put out, I wanted there to be kind of this spray of, here's kind of a sense of what I can do.
Sure.
Right. And we did it in 5 songs, which is impressive. I thought it was going to be a whole record of stuff. But we did it in these 5 songs, and just lay that foundation, because I want to be, I hope to be somebody like George Strait or somebody like that. Right. That as far as career wise, there's only one George Strait, but as far as a long-term career, you saw with those guys, they did the work early on. They really, they put in their time. And so that's what I really wanted to do, was do it like those guys, rather than, if you're ready to go and you've done all this work, by all means, man, American Idol, probably a great way to go, because you're there. And if you know exactly who you are, it works, but I just wasn't ready.
Well, and I mean, again, to that whole point, you're there, but then if things don't go your way and you get outshined by somebody right next to you, but it's like you're not there anymore. And then all of a sudden you just could crash and burn and lose all interest in what you thought was your dream. So what are you loving about living in Nashville? And I'm going to ask you, what don't you love about, living in Nashville? All the bachelorette parties. There's a lot of those.
Yeah. It's a very changing town. I think it was Tyler Childers has a great, I'm not going to quote him, but I'm pretty sure it's him that said something like, why would I move to the fastest growing city in the U.S. to write country music, rural music? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
And there's a little truth in that, but there's also, my favorite side of Nashville is the history. Because since I moved there, I've become such a fan of learning about guys that played on my favorite records, because people don't think about that. Right. I thought George Strait wrote all his songs. Right. Well, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's like,
I bet a lot of people still think that.
Still think that, right? Exactly. Great guys like Mark Nessler wrote his songs. You know what I'm saying? Yep, it's like
absolutely.
And so it's the history around it is cool and inspiring. I hate to see on Music Row. Some of my favorite things to do is go up and down Music Row and see there's RCA here,
right?
Where Elvis recorded all this great stuff. Where I've listened to these songs coming out of there for so long, and another part of it too is just the amount of talent that is there. Songwriters, because the best songwriters in the world are there. Yep. The best musicians in the world are there. The best studios, the best engineers, everything. And so it's if you want to go there and make a great record.
The best way for a musician to actually make money while they're trying to become what they want to become, because music's 24/7 there. It's like every bar has a band playing. So if you're trying to make rent and you're trying to afford studio time and you're trying to afford this and that, that is the perfect place to be, because you can make a living doing what you want to do, try some new songs out on a crowd and figure out what sticks. So it's got that.
Well, it's also too, when you're around it all the time like that, you can't help but get better.
Right.
Because if you're totally immersed in it like you are in Nashville and you're around all these people that are great, it's like osmosis. You're just going to soak it in, because you're really going to get a sense of you see, or you just see something. A lot of times I'll go see a singer singing and be like, man, that's a great little thing.
Right.
It's like you kind of soak all this stuff in. And songwriting too, it's the same way. It's so competitive, that you have to be good.
So when it comes down to, I guess, type of song, what do you feel is when you're singing whether it's a kind of a love song, an upbeat song, when you're singing it up on stage, even out of the 5 songs that you just kicked out, what just kind of feels like it's you, Yeah,
I love the ballads. I love singing the ballads. I mean, I love there's kind of 2 sides, I think, to me, and especially in a live show. And it's kind of 2 different things, right? In a live show, I love the rockers, like sounds like something I do, where it's like this kind of intensity thing and the crowd loves it. But as far as especially making a record, songs like Don't Look Down and She are really in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool, especially when you're in the record making process, because I was lucky enough to have some of these great musicians that played on all my favorite records.
Right.
Guys like Tom Bukovac and Gordon Mote, Stuart Duncan, who played fiddle on like George Strait's records and Alan Jackson's records, songs that I've been listening to my whole life, but I didn't know it was Stuart.
Right.
But as soon as I hear him come through those headphones, when I'm sitting in the studio with him, and I was like, oh, these memories start coming back of that makes sense. Those hands, that fiddle, it's that sound. And really in the slower songs like Don't Look Down and She, you really, especially being in the studio with those, all those guys kind of shine, right?
Yeah, right.
It's the perfect, because you do live and sometimes it doesn't sound as great, or some things can get in the way of some of those ballads. But when you're there in the studio, headphones and everything sounds great.
And there's an emotion to it when probably when you're on stage and you're playing a song like that, and you can see the facial expressions and the way that it's touching people, like it hits people differently. Yeah. The upbeat songs, everybody, that's great. Let's you're raising the glass and drinking your beer, but it's those ballads that kind of connect people, and that's tends to be the ones people go back and kind of listen to and actually listen and learn the words to them, which I think is cool. As soon as somebody actually knows the words of your song and you see somebody singing the words of your song, that's got to be.
Oh, it's cool.
Like the shit, right?
Well, it's great, because like I said, I've been working on this stuff for 4 years, and some of these songs are 3 or 4 years old, but I haven't been able to really go out and play them. This is the first time, and we were ready. Last year we were ready in March to put this stuff out, and all of a sudden, poof! The everything stopped.
Right.
And so I'm sitting there like, okay, I guess we're waiting a little longer.
Right.
And so we did, and we've got to go out.
I'm still pissed off I haven't seen the sequel for Top Gun.
Yeah, right.
Pandemic basically ruined my world, because Top Gun was supposed to come out, and I was going to fly to San Diego with my buddies and watch it, and go to it ruined me. It was awful. That's that and a whole bunch of frozen pizzas.
Yeah.
So how do you make money in music and nowadays?
I don't know. You're asking the wrong person. That one. I don't know.
It seems like it's just. And it's got to be scary to sign a deal, a management deal, or a record deal of any kind. The fine print's got to be crazy, and
it is.
And you hear so much about people just doing it on their own, going the YouTube route, going the social route, making money that way. What made you kind of make the decision to choose your route?
It's not money based. I think it's just something. Music to me and to a lot of guys is more of an affliction. It's like something you have to do, right? And that's how I feel about it. And it's something that I love so much. And I don't think you can aim, especially in this, this time. It's hard to make money, but at the same time, I think doing a live show is really the only place you can make money right now. That's why a lot of musicians struggled last year.
Yeah.
Songwriters don't get paid as much as they should.
Right.
That's just
it's gotta be a hit. It's gotta be a number one.
Yep.
Otherwise
you're not going to make, that much money off of it. Right. So, back in the 90s, hearing these stories about when country music was huge and popping, and you could have a George Strait album cut, Garth Brooks album cut, and you were set. Buddy.
Right.
Then it didn't even have to be a single.
Right.
You were set because that album was selling 7 million copies, and that's a lot of cash, right? And you just don't have that. People don't pay. Here's $15 for an album. That's what it used to be like. Now it's not really that. It's $5, and you can listen to millions of songs.
Right.
So we got to figure out that payout to especially the songwriters. If we want to have good songwriters stick around.
Correct.
If we want to have good songwriters stick around, we're going to have to figure that out because they're going to find other things to do.
So I think what I'd really like to see is when this pandemic kind of ended up and the surge of people going back out to see live music.
Yep.
I think everybody is like, I didn't realize how much I missed that.
Yep.
And sometimes you pass on opportunities to go see live music because it's so readily available with whether it's festivals and this.
They'll be back around.
They'll be back around. And I think now there's this, maybe they won't, maybe they won't be.
Exactly.
So it's been really cool to see kind of how everybody's kind of turned around and paid more attention to it. What's next for you? What's on the journey with this release of the 5-song EP, and what are you doing with it?
I'm getting out on the road. I want to go see people, and like you said, people are hungry. I think it's a cool time to be a new artist too.
Yeah,
and to be able, I looked at this, and that's how I try to look through it. The whole pandemic was, hopefully when this stuff does come out, people are going to be ready for something new,
right?
Then they don't care what it is. They just want to go see it.
Yep.
And I think we're starting to see that, and there's still like kind of a little bit of trip, right? We kind of got out of it and like a little bit of, there's a little bit of anxiety that comes with it, but I think we're going to come out of this and really be able to, people are going to want something new, which is a cool thing for me. So I want to get out there and see as many people as possible. That's my focus right now. And hopefully be able to go to radio with some of this stuff. I'm definitely going to go hit Texas hard. I want to go back home. I mean, it's just, and I grew up going to places like, Billy Bob's and Green Hall down there. And, I want to go down there and see everybody. Right. So that's definitely going to be a big one. And, I just want to get a great live show going, because I didn't have the time to do it. I spent 3 or 4 years songwriting and learning that. And now I want to really get that live show great and be able to really communicate these songs to people.
Well, we're excited to have you here. We're excited to have you out on the Interstate music stage, and we'll be streaming you, soon as things go. And thanks for doing this. Thanks for sitting down with me. Thanks for being about as real and genuine as they get. I think it's refreshing to actually, have somebody that you can talk to and feel like, they're telling you the truth, no bullshit. Appreciate it. Big fan. I'm a big fan over here.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm so looking forward. This place is awesome.
Thank you.
I think what you're doing is great. So
awesome.
Glad to be here.
Well, that's it for the Interstate Music Podcast. Drake Milligan. Before we go, can we grab another Lone Star? Because
there we go.
I'd like to get another one of those and twist the cap off on that. Thank you. Thank you.
I love it.
Awesome.
I love it.
All right, my friend.
There we go.
Cheers. Hey, I was born in Houston, by the way.
Yeah.
Lived there 3.5 years, so just barely had an accent.
Yeah.
And then I lost that.
There you go.
So cheers.
Awesome. Cheers.
Thank you.